Hello everybody, and welcome to the LFC transfer room with myself, Louis. Today, I'm joined by Jamie, Bob, and James. And today, we're presenting a slightly new show. We're just going to trial it out today, see how it goes. Aptly and quite boringly named the Premier League room. It's more of a Premier League preview, which we'll be doing most Fridays in the build-up to the weekend's fixtures. So, for the first time, not just exclusively a Liverpool video. This is a little bit more general, bit more chilled out, kicked back, and we can just go through some of the most important fixtures to us. But of course, we will also talk about Liverpool versus Norwich. But first of all, I'll go round to everybody. Jamie, it's your first video with us. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, but it's a pleasure to be on, first of all, so thank you for the opportunity. And I'm doing good, especially after Wednesday night, a win in Milan. Yeah, it can't get much better than that. Looking forward to tomorrow now as well. Nearly a fully fit squad, so I think there's loads to be excited for.
And Bob, how you doing?
Yeah, all good. Had a few issues with the storm today, but otherwise, all good. All good. Wednesday result was perfect, I should say. Clean sheet, 2 goals. The only downside, as Jurgen said, was the injury to Jota. But yeah, all good, thank you. Well on Norwich.
Yeah, and we will have a quick reflect on the Inter game in a second. And James, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I mean the storms had jack all effect on me because I work from home, so I'm just looking at a bit of rain outside more than anything. So thankfully nothing's blown down. But apart from that, I'm all good. Ready for the weekend. Got myself a beer. I'm all good. I'm all set.
Fantastic. Good to see people in the comments. Cool Creepers, I hope you're doing well. Ayush as well. Jen, of course, another super sticker. What have I told you about this, Jen? Stop it, please. And Ben as well. A bit of support for Jamie on his first stream. We love to see it. If you are new, please make sure to like the video and subscribe as well. So quickly, before we get into the main bulk of it, just going back to that Inter game, I'll start with you, James. What did you make of the performance overall? It wasn't vintage Liverpool by any means. You could argue for large parts we were second best, but ultimately, first half of the fixture is now done, and we have a quite comfortable 2-0 lead going back to Anfield.
Yeah, I think Inzaghi put it best. I think it was a few weeks ago before the game. He was saying that Liverpool have this knack of making you feel like you're in the game, and then just out of nowhere you're not. And he's like, they've got this weird knack of just making you think that you've got this opportunity, and then they just cut you open and score the goals. And that's pretty much what happened. I mean, the game was, they didn't get a shot on target. What worried me was the Perisic gap behind Trent Alexander-Arnold with that Harvey Elliott front. Obviously, when they brought Henderson on, it shut down that channel. That worries me a bit. I can see that as a thing people are going to try and do, put someone very wide left to take on Trent. But apart from that, happy days. It was ultimate professional performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, I was impressed by those last 15, 20 minutes, how we were able to suddenly snatch the game away from them. And Bob, I'll come to you. How important do you think that those triple substitutes were? Surely that must have played a big part in changing the game's direction.
Yeah, definitely key, to be honest. The man who's been getting a lot of criticism recently, the captain, surprise, steps onto the pitch and we're able to control the game a bit better. I know he's not. I can't understand it to this day. I know everyone's entitled to their opinions, but the way the stick he gets is crazy, really. But yeah, the triple change of Henderson, Keita, and Diaz. Diaz came on, looked lively. Keita was just steady, kept it moving, and Henderson, who I think really. Sometimes I remember when we won the league, the year we won the league, and Fabinho got injured, and he went into that 6 role. And when Fabinho got injured, everyone was worried, and he must have put at about 8 games in number 6, including Leicester away, in which we won 4-0. I think that was the best performance of the season. And he plays really well there. But yeah, it was a good performance. The 3 changes key. Thought Harvey Elliott struggled a bit, but he's young, thrown in there. He'll come back again, really. Like, there's no doubt about his potential and his talent, really. Just maybe he's coming back from an injury as well, so he didn't do too bad. But there was times in the first half where it was a bit kind of like, whoa, what's kind of going on here? But yeah, he will come back again.
Yeah, it felt like maybe it just wasn't his kind of game. He's a player who, I know he does track back very well, and some say he does that better than Henderson. But he is a player who prefers to play in a more advanced role. Kris, who's on the channel, would argue that he almost turns us into a 4-2-3-1 because he's so advanced on that right side.
Yeah, I can see that.
And you notice that when Keita and Henderson came on, it just gave us that bit more control, and that's not a detriment to Harvey Elliott. It's just a different style, really, and maybe that this game just suited Keita and Henderson more. But obviously, Henderson had that injury, and Keita, for whatever reason, wasn't deemed to start. So, not sure exactly what's going on there, but it'll be interesting to see what the starting 11 is.
In-game tactical
tomorrow.
awareness, Harvey Elliott's got to develop, hasn't he? He's young. He's not going to learn the in-game ways to edit his game to the game plan to fit in at 18, 19 years old. Henderson's 31, I think. He's going to know, right, well, I need to change my game here and do this plan B and stuff like that as the captain.
It's going to take him time, like you said, James. I mean, Trent got thrown in at Old Trafford away, and the player that was at that point to the player that is now, he's just massively improved, isn't he? So it will take time.
It's not going to affect his confidence. He is not a kid that struggles for confidence, is he, Harvey Elliott?
No.
If he can rock that previous haircut that he had, then he can do anything. Jamie, I'll come to you. No pressure for your first question. Right. Obviously, Diogo Jota unfortunately had to go off at half-time with a suspected ankle ligament injury. It's unclear at this point how bad it is. Are you particularly worried? And if it does turn out to be a potentially longer-term injury, more than just Norwich, do you see that having a big impact on the team, considering the new depth that we seem to have come up with?
Yeah, look, it's key because I think Klopp's now established Jota as the number one striker over Bobby, in my opinion. The game choices that he's chosen in suggests that to me. So to have him injured is a massive blow, especially when we just had that feeling of a full fit squad. It was like it was a Christmas present now, and we can't have it till Christmas because it got taken straight away from us. So, look, we need to see how long he's out for, first of all. I think the main thing we need to look for is the Carabao Cup final. I think our two games now, Norwich at home, Leeds at home, are very winnable without him. So in that sense, it's not crucial because Bobby or Diaz, whoever he selects to play with Mane or Salah, are enough to do the job against them two teams. So it's going to be key if he misses the final. For definite, he is a natural goal scorer. His numbers he's put up there all season have been absolutely superb, top tier. So it just, for me, it depends on how long he's out for. I think he was carrying a knock throughout that game. He didn't look himself. So we'll just have to see. It's key, but if we can get him back for the cup final, I don't think he should be that much of a miss for the two games ahead.
And just getting into the comments, a lot of people showing up and getting involved, which is great to see. So Jen asked if there's a watch along tomorrow. I think that's been answered already, but yes, there will be a watch along tomorrow, probably live from about 2:30. Jack and Tar will be hosting that. Hylas says, apologies, James and Bob, to cover your faces. Liverpool seem to have so much differential attacking options that one of those choices always seems to score. Liverpool struggled with that. 3 defensive setup, though, always seemed to Achilles setup. So this was something that a lot of us talked about during the watch along, that when teams decide to sit that bit deeper, have that extra man at the back, a lot of people feel like it negatively impacts us. But I got a slightly different feeling from that game. There was that 20-minute spell at the start of the second half where Inter were the better team than us. And in those 20 minutes, they deserved to win those 20 minutes. But in the first half, I felt like we caught out their back three a lot at the back. The pressing was really good. We created a lot more chances than they did. They didn't actually get a shot on target the whole game. James, do you feel like overall we struggled, or has it been sort of blown out of proportion a little bit?
No, I think with a back three, normally, it's about our left back and right back pushing back the wing backs to turn it into a back five. And then it's basically our front three against their back three, wing backs against defenders, and normally we dominate. But I think where Inter was different is you've got to look at central midfield was what was pushing on in this game. Instead of having your defensive central midfield that we usually would have, let's take last season, Gini Wijnaldum, Henderson, Fabinho, where you would have that defensive cover for the wing backs, the two central midfielders covering the gap, and then you can it's 5-on-3 in essence. We had two further forward central midfielders, and I think that created us a bit of a problem, but I think we worked it out in game because they didn't get clear chances, they just got clear space. And we've got to differentiate between them getting the space to get into our final third, which we very rarely let people do without getting them offside, compared to giving them opportunities. If we were giving them opportunities, they would have shots on target. They were definitely getting into space. Perisic was finding a lot. Dumfries was finding a lot of space, but they weren't turning it into dangerous space. They weren't creating it in opportunities and stuff like that. And I think that was more about the two central midfielders than it was about a three at the back, because a 3 versus 3, we should dominate pretty much every time. In my opinion, anyway.
Ayush says, we did struggle, in my opinion. The thing is, it was mostly 50-50 in the entirety of the game, but Inter were above us in those 20 minutes. But we took our chances, so on to the next one. And I guess that's absolutely right. Sorry, Ayush's other comments just put me off a little bit. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's half time. We take it back to Anfield. There's no away goals. So, we've got to be very confident going into that. So let's hope for the best. It's still not for another 2-3 weeks, is it, the return leg? So a while to wait. But we'll get into this weekend's Premier League fixtures. We won't go through all of them because there are a lot of games. Everyone is playing this weekend, which is great to see. A lot of 3 p.m. kickoffs. We'll start with the Manchester City versus Tottenham game. It's this is the team we're keeping an eye on every week, and every week they're coming up with a win, as you would expect Man City to do. Jamie, I'll come and start with you. Are Tottenham the team to halt Man City in their tracks? Are they the team we can rely on?
A couple of weeks ago, I think the answer would have been a lot more uncertain. I think you'd possibly put doubt in City's heads that maybe they dropped 3 points here. But after the last couple of weeks, it looks like the wheels on the bus have really fell off for Tottenham. Is it 3 losses in a row? I think that's Tottenham's first time at home or Conte's first time as manager. They really are struggling, and I think the quality in the squad's really being shown up. Some of the signings that was made before Conte come in are appalling, to be fair. I think Emerson Royale's miles off it. The defence, except from Romero, it is nothing but shaky. I think Lloris, the 2 errors for the Wolves goal was absolutely massive. So I think we talk about it a day before, and I'm not very confident that Tottenham are the team. You never know. Conte's still, he's a world-class manager. I assume he can do anything, but I think a win against Pep City team at the minute is a little bit too far for him.
Yeah, and Bob, I think it was their last Premier League fixture. They lost 2-0 at home to Wolves. I mean, when Conte first came in, it looks like maybe they were getting that new manager bounce, but the honeymoon period seems to have worn off quite quickly. Do you think they can conjure something tomorrow?
I'd like to think they could, but like James said, I just can't see it really. Man City seem to be in a groove. I can't remember the last game I've seen really where Man City have even been under the cosh for a spell in a game, let alone for the full game. So maybe if the game was at Tottenham's ground, you could say maybe there might be a 20-minute spell where Tottenham might get on top. But you look at Conte's comments this week as well. Just like it doesn't seem that everybody's kind of on the same page. It just seems a little bit rocky at the moment. And when you're playing a team that's just a well-oiled machine on a roll, I just can't see. I mean, like everybody in the group at the moment, I hope we're wrong. I hope come 5 o'clock, we've got 3 points against Norwich. We've closed that gap and then kind of put some sort of scoreboard pressure, because it's the first time in a while that we've played before them. So maybe that might have an effect. Not that would have been closed the gap that much, but it still would have closed the gap to put some bit of pressure, because normally it's always they're going 12 ahead, and then we're closing it to 9 with a game in hand. 12 ahead. So this time, would have pulled it back to 6. Might do something to their jitters. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think it's unlikely, really, to be fair.
Nathman says we shouldn't be relying on other results. We just need to keep winning. I understand the sentiment, but in this case, we literally do need Man City to drop points.
Yeah. We need to rely on other results.
We actually do need to rely on other results. So I get your point. But James, there's been somewhat of some mind games from Pep in the past week. He obviously made the joke about if anyone can stop them, it's Liverpool. Liverpool are a pain in the arse. He did say, and I feel this was very intentional, he pointed out that we're 6 points behind, but we are 9 points behind with that game in hand. Do you feel like he's just sort of trying to... There seems to be a bit of back and forth. Obviously, Trent made those comments as well. And then Kyle Walker released that,
that is a shocker
video. That was so bizarre. Do you feel like things are heating up a little bit and Pep's trying to sort of egg a bit of a rivalry on here?
I'm surprised he didn't have his 50-meter swimming certificate in that video, Kyle Walker, just stapled next to him as well. I think there's the elements that Man City are always trying to generate a rivalry with somebody. They want a true rivalry, and nobody sees them as true rivals, and it winds them up, which means no one will see them as true rivals. But they need to feel like they're putting pressure on us as opposed to us just chasing them down, because let's be fair, this is where we feel at our most comfortable, where we're the underdog. We shouldn't be doing anything. Everyone's writing us off and we can just focus on winning every week and every week. And the way that this is, Pep probably does look at it like 6 points gap, because let's be honest, to win the Premier League in this City-Liverpool era, you can't drop 6 points. The likelihood of us pulling it back is, even if we can beat them and turn it into a 3-point gap, it all comes down then to what matches against Chelsea, Tottenham, Man U, these big ones that could turn into draws. So I think he needs to treat it like it's a 6-point gap and get his team to treat it like it's a 6-point gap. Because if they treat it like it's a 9 and they lose to us, suddenly it's a 3. And then the pressure really hits them.
And Jamie, beyond this fixture, how do you feel the title race is shaping up? Do you think it's similar to the season before we won it, when it's just going to be both teams going absolutely ham between now and the end of the season, picking up 3 points after 3 points, and it's going to be very closely matched? How do you see it going?
The title race is definitely on. But it's how reliant we are on the team above us. And that's not the position you desperately want to be in, especially when it's Manchester City. They are literally robotic at the moment. They're a machine that just doesn't drop points. They're going to have the blips. You've seen that at St. Mary's last month. It happens to every football team. Without trying to sound too negative, I think at this current stage, we're more likely to slip up than they are. But I think for now, we've just got to focus on take it in stages. It's got to be game by game. If we win every game up until the Etihad, I think it's definitely on. Because at the Etihad, for me, it's a 50-50. I think both of our first 11s just as good as each other. You look at the squad depth that we have now, although a lot of people whinge on it. You look at that bench for Inter Milan. It's actually really, really good. We had so many options. The triple change we made, you see how much of an impact that makes. So I think we are, although the table doesn't suggest it, 50-50. It's just the points in the gap and how much City would drop. They've got a tough next 3 fixtures, if you can call it that. By name, they have Spurs, Everton, United, although they're not all performing to their calibre of the club they should be. So it's on. If you ask me now who would win it, I'd say City.
And just sort of looking behind us a little bit, one of the other fixtures is Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. I didn't actually realise just how far Chelsea have dropped off. They're now 7 points behind us. James, unless we have a cataclysmic end to the season, we shouldn't be dropping second place at all, should we?
No, and I think it's evident in how Chelsea fans are acting now. Instead of talking about how they're going to get top 3, what Chelsea fans are talking about is how great Tuchel is. That he's got because he's won the World Club Cup, he's comparable to Klopp, and look, that he's done it in a shorter time. And so they're just focused on that sort of trophy argument at the moment than they are about what's going on currently. Even when people are talking about the Champions League, no one's talking about Chelsea anymore. Everyone's like, whoever beats Liverpool will win the Champions League, or whoever beats City will win the Champions League. That's pretty much what everyone's saying. Is whoever beats one of these teams will win it. So whether everyone's expecting us to match in the final or play against each other, I think so. They just seem to have lost momentum, and it feels like the Lukaku interview for Sky Italia was the beginning of that sort of breakdown, the classic Chelsea revolt of players just going, I'm too good for this club, blah, 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 toys out of pram. The whole thing implodes and they just lose the focus, which probably means Tuchel will get sacked. They'll bring in a new manager. They'll do the rotation again and win something else. But it feels like they've lost it. It has to be second or nothing now.
And Bob, it feels weird asking a question that's not Liverpool related at all. But if we're looking at the Premier League in general, so Chelsea's opposition tomorrow is Crystal Palace. How good of a job do you think Patrick Vieira's done? At the moment, on 24 games, they lie in 13th place. They are 9 points clear of the relegation zone. With the squad they've got, do you think this is a successful first season for him so far?
So far, definitely. Even if it's not just the results, just the playing, from going from Hodgson to how they're playing at the moment, that already, if you're a Palace fan, is a good time, really, because under Hodgson, it was literally one man up front will just counter-attack when possible and give the ball to Zaha. And now it's got to a point where Zaha was away at AFCON and they were still doing it right. I like that Olisa that they've got on the right. He looks really good. They've still got Eze to come back in. Obviously, the Chelsea loanee, they've got Conor Gallagher in there. They gave us a game anyway when we played them. And even at Anfield, when we beat them 3-0, they still had chances. Much better than they were under Roy Hodgson, certainly. So, yeah, I can see them giving Chelsea a game tomorrow, especially Chelsea have been away. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up as a draw, to be honest.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that, Jamie. They've just come back from winning the Club World Cup, so another team that now sort of understands what we went through with. It's against teams a lot of people won't have heard of, but it's still great to win it. But how much do you think that will take out of them? Because they obviously went to extra time with that game, a long journey, almost to the other side of the world. Could this hinder their league form once more?
You can look at it from both senses, on the hindering side and the helping side. It could help them with confidence. They could mentally change. They've got that re-innovation of, right, we're the champions of the world now, we should be beating everyone again, and go back to getting the mentality up. But yet again, it's possibly going to be a leggy performance. Like you said, the travel, the minutes that they played in going to extra time, it will have took a lot out of them. So I think it can go either way. I think that the game they got is a very tough game, especially at Selhurst Park. It's always tough to go there. I think the atmosphere is always bouncing. And you asked Bob the question before. I think Patrick Vieira is a really good manager. I just think he's been very unlucky when I've watched him. Look at Norwich. His main player slipped for the penalty. That cost them 3 points there. They've lost a lot of the games in the last minute. They're up there with the most VAR decisions overturned this season. I think he's been really unlucky. So I can see Palace taking something out of the game, especially being at home. So I'm going to say it will hinder them. And Chelsea do drop points.
And just taking a look towards the top four battle, which is, again, seems to, apart from this year, the title is still up for grabs. The top four race does almost seem to be the most fascinating part of a season nowadays, which is a bit of a shame, but interesting all the same. Arsenal play Brentford.
Top four race.
The top four race? What, for fourth place?
Arsenal? Are they anywhere near?
Yeah.
They're sixth, aren't they? Jesus.
They've got 3 games in hand. If my table I've got up now is correct.
You're right. I'm looking at it.
They play
Jesus.
Brentford, who are in 14th, having
How much
lost.
has everyone imploded?
Well, that's what the back end of the season seems to be with fourth place. It's who can screw up the least rather than who can win the most.
Yeah.
Nice not to be involved though, isn't it? Remember last year we were 7th at this point.
But then we had a resurgence and we went on and won bloody most
definitely.
of our games.
Yeah, the last 10 games of the season, won 8, I think, and drew 1 or something like that. So
Yeah.
we went on a crazy run that got us secured. Shout out Nat Phillips, Reece Williams. But
Oh, Nat Phillips, of course, got a baptism of fire in the FA Cup, getting knocked out against Boreham Wood. But apart from that, I think he's been impressing the Bournemouth fans, which is great to see. With Arsenal, they had an interesting January transfer window. Jamie, I'll come back to you. They got out a bit more of maybe what you'd call the deadwood, but of course they also got rid of Aubameyang, and now they seem to be a little bit short. Because Maitland-Niles can play as an attacker of sorts, didn't he? But I believe he's gone out on loan as well, or he's left the club. So they look a little bit light up front, and I just wonder what you think that will mean in their run-in for top 4.
Yeah, to me, it's a travesty that they didn't go for a striker. I don't know. We can never know the ins and outs of it. If they tried Vlahovic and he turned them down for that Juventus move, a lot of the players in Italy like to go to the top club in the league. But for me, you've still got to do some business, especially with the way things ended with Aubameyang. I think a lot of Arsenal fans didn't like the way it ended. There's a serious problem there with Mikel Arteta and himself, and I think that ultimately is the reason why he left. And I think a drop of confidence as well. Look, he might not have the blistering pace that he used to have, but he's still a goal scorer. It doesn't just go overnight. He's going to age. The decline's there, but I think he's surely got to be better than Eddie and Nketiah at this stage in the season for a top 4 race. So I think it's ludicrous that they didn't sign anyone and that they let Aubameyang go on a free.
Well, they've got
Balogun as well, didn't they?
Oh yeah, to Middlesbrough. Yeah. Have a good, exciting. He's meant to be a good, exciting prospect. Crazy business.
And they've got El Neni back from AFCON as well. That will help, won't it? The other team who are potentially in the race.
Just on that, whilst I agree that they should have strengthened, the other way to look at it though is they're literally out of every cup competition. So they've literally just got 1 game a week, 14 league games to get top 4.
Is that always a positive, though? I don't know if that always helps teams.
It kind of worked for Leicester, and it kind of worked for us when we started that jump back, didn't it?
And Chelsea when they won and won the league and the Conte, they literally had just 1 game a week. I'm more talking about squad size. You should hopefully, like having someone injured, you've got a week to get them back. Whereas sometimes you might have a European game or a cup game. Literally, they're out of everything, and they weren't really playing Aubameyang for the last 3 months anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, with 3 games in hand, I'd say they're almost my favourite to get top 4 now. Man United, you just don't know how they're going to turn up each week. West Ham are the next team that I want to talk about because they are still up there. They're level on games with United, just 2 points behind. I think a lot of people are just waiting for them to kind of fall off, but at present, it's not happening. Jamie, do you think that's maybe dependent on the Europa League getting back underway? Do you think then we might start to see them prioritising that and injuries, fatigue in general, slowing them down in the league?
Yeah, possibly. Again, I think they should have done some better business in January with the Europa League. They've got a lot of things to focus on. They're still in the FA Cup, they're in the Europa League, and they're in a top 4 race. I do think it's the case that everyone feels, when are they going to drop points? They drop points at Leicester, but King Power, no matter what form they are, it's always a tough place to go. We learned that this season. So I wouldn't say they'll prioritise Europa League. I think they'll have to go strong in both. It's going to be a very tough competition. I'll never forget Burnley, when Burnley hit the Europa League qualifiers one season and then fell off. It just took the squad completely out of it. So it's going to be tiring. But I don't think they'll get the top 4. I don't think they'll get the top 6. I think there's too much quality, although it's not being shown at the minute in the sides above, and the depth is bigger. And when you get further into the Europa League and you get further into the FA Cup, which they're in next week, and you start getting more leggy, your players start getting more season fatigue, it's going to come. They've not been blessed too well with injuries this season either, and off the pitch incidents, which is another crazy situation that they need to sort. So I wouldn't say that I'd prioritise Europa League. I think he's going to have to put every egg in every basket in that sort of sense.
And they play, James, I'll come to you. They play Newcastle in the 12:30 game, and you said before the stream that's potentially, apart from Man City, Tottenham, that might be the game of the weekend to keep an eye on.
Weekend for me,
You reckon?
I think so, because West Ham are on a good run of form. Newcastle are on a good run of form. They've just won 3 in a row, haven't they? Both teams are confident. It's 12:30 kickoff. I think it's just going to be 2 teams just attacking each other over and over again. I think it's just, you've got St. Maximin against what is in essence a really well-organised counter-attacking team in what David Moyes has done. I'm hoping for a good few goals in it, to be honest. I think it's just going to be one of those back and forths. The power of Antonio and Bowen against Maximum, and the way that they're now trying to play. The only thing that lets me down is Trippier's out, isn't he? Potentially got a serious injury, Trippier. Yes. And I think the delivery, for the Chris Wood and for the second balls, I think it was essential to have that. Not from open play, but just from set pieces, just to have Kieran Trippier just whipping it in. So I think that lets it down a bit, but I still think it'll be a cracking game.
And Bob, with Newcastle, I mean, I haven't been too impressed with Eddie Howe anyway, but obviously he's got those new signings through the door, and they find themselves now 5 points clear of the relegation zone with a game in hand as well. So I guess what I worry for Newcastle is that for the remainder of this season, they're not going to have too much to play for. How does or can Eddie Howe keep these players motivated to keep on grinding out results?
It's going to be tough, but I think the only way you can keep them motivated, I'm not sure if even if he has to say it himself, just the fact that they know now we've stayed up, or pretty much are going to stay up come the summer with the money that they've got. Apart from the ones that have been brought in January, everybody's position is up for grabs, and by that I mean from players coming in rather than what's already in the squad. So, for example, I'm guessing come the summer they're going to be buying players that are better than what they've already got in probably each position. Like last weekend, Lascelles missed out, who's the club captain, but obviously Dan Burn played, who they've just brought in, and Fabian Schär, who's a Swiss international, played, and they were solid. So you're already looking at Lascelles' situation, and you're thinking that could now start to be tricky for you. And then left back, obviously they've got Target at the moment on loan, so that means whoever was there, Jamal Lewis before, his position is under threat. And then you go through the team, everybody kind of needs to play for their own position if you want to be part of that project at Newcastle going forward. That's sort of the only motivation you can kind of have, really, because even someone like John Shelby might be okay now, but they brought Bruno Guimaraes in, who's been playing in it with Lyon in the Champions League. He has to be playing at some point. I kind of find it mad. I know they've been winning, that's probably the reason, but I find it mad how Eddie Hearn kind of puts him in like the last 5 minutes of games. I'm like, this guy was playing in the Champions League and plays for Brazil. Like, surely you can just fit him in. Maybe not the first one after the international, but the game 2 and the one against Villa the other day, I genuinely thought he was going to start. I thought, I know you're going to keep a winning team.
Mental,
but
isn't
it? He's better than John Shelby, surely. Like,
Uncle great.
We're seeing in the comments that apparently Karim Adeyemi is off to Dortmund. Jamie, I'll come to you quickly on this. Obviously, it's not Premier League related, but in the Europa League yesterday, we saw Dortmund, who are second, third best team in Germany, get battered for large parts against Rangers. And a lot of people say the Scottish League is a bit of a farmers' league, and that, if Rangers and Celtic tried to integrate into the English league, they'd be down in League One or whatever. What does that mean for the German league? You know, this is meant to be almost their creme de la creme, and here they are getting battered on a Thursday night by a Scottish team.
Yeah, it was a crazy result. It was. I'd have expected it to be the other way around. I thought Dortmund would sweep them away, but they didn't. So I don't know what. I don't watch enough of the German league. That's probably the reason why, because of how poor the level is. You look at the gap between second in Dortmund and Bayern, and it's 10 points minimum every season. So I don't rate the league. In terms of Adeyemi going, I think it's a good move for his career because you can see what Dortmund do with players, the way they turn them around. It's his home as well. He's German. So I don't blame him. I always thought he'd go to a German club. And he's literally following the same career path as Haaland, where he's made in RB Salzburg, and then he's brought up in Dortmund. It gets him global. It gets his name bigger. He's playing under the lights in Europe. I think it's a good move for him. But what the situation with Dortmund is, I do not know, because that was a very poor result. Embarrassing.
James or Bob, I don't know how much German football you watch, but whenever I have tuned in to watch specifically a Dortmund game, they've always seemed quite open at the back. I've never quite understood it, and I didn't know if that was just a specific game. I don't know if either of you have watched much of them or German football in general.
Yeah, well, the last decent centre back they bought was Matt Hummels, who I think was nearly 33 back off Bayern Munich. So you were going to struggle defensively. What's a bit strange though is Sule from Bayern Munich has decided to go there as well next season on the free. So that kind of surprised me because I thought maybe he'd come to the Premier League, but
Who's going
he's decided to go to leave Bayern. The big centre back, the German Niklas Sule. Yeah, he's left Bayern on a free to go to Dortmund for next season, which I found kind of strange. I mean, Bayern, I don't know, maybe he's just got bored of winning and he wants a bit of a challenge. I don't quite understand, but it puzzled me a little bit. But yeah, as Jamie said, for a young player, really, if you've got a high ceiling, then Dortmund is the club for you because you know they're going to play you. You're going to be playing Champions League, and they're going to sell you. Anywhere else, you're not probably going to have those three things all aligned together for yourself. Do you know what I mean? So, and you might get somewhere where they might play you, they might sell you on, but they might not necessarily play you straight away, or they're not in the Champions League, but Dortmund have that kind of record of knowing that if I go there, do well, I will get my move. So it kind of just makes sense for him to go there, really. I know we were interested in him, but he might just look at our front five and just think, well, I might end up there in 2-3 years' time, but I'm better off going to do this first, sort of thing.
Ayush says that Dortmund play a high line and use the wing overlapping fullbacks, like similar to Chris Wilder. They simply don't have the pace, and hence they get caught out every time. With Adeyemi on the move to Dortmund, I suppose that potentially heats up the whole Haaland transfer saga. Does anyone hopeful that we still get in for him? I mean, personally, I don't think
he's coming towards his hurricane, so that he can get a move to City.
We'll leave that for a transfer central, maybe. But we can turn our attention now, finally, to Liverpool. Bob, I don't know if you want to head off, or we're approaching 40 minutes. It's up to you.
Yeah, I've just got to go and sort a few things out this evening because I shut the power back. So
no worries at all. You take care.
Thank you, Bob.
Good being with you. Speak in a bit.
There we go. Right, so slightly different overlay because we've only got the Premier League one for 4 people, but we're back again. So, as I said, turning our attention to 3 p.m. kickoff, Liverpool versus Norwich. This has to be 3 points in the bag, doesn't it? I know you don't take a point for granted in the Premier League, but in this case, you have to say, if it's anything but, it is an absolute travesty, surely, James.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where they might score a goal, but what have they been really doing? I think, yeah, they got 2 wins. Dean Smith, I'm not a massive fan of him, to be honest. I don't think he's the solution. They've had that little peak from a new manager coming in, still not got out the bottom three, sorry. And I think us coming to town, let's release Diaz on them and see how they can deal with someone just sprinting directly at their goal. That's what I'd do.
Obviously, I'm not sure if Ozan Kabak's fit or not. I feel like I don't know if he got an injury or not, but he did say when he was at Liverpool, bless him, it was his dream to play alongside Virgil van Dijk. He didn't get to fulfill that dream, and I think a lot of us maybe were a bit gutted for him at the start, but having seen some of his performances in the Norwich shirt, I'd say maybe that softened the blow a little bit. He hasn't been too impressive. Jamie, do you think he'll be looking forward to tomorrow?
Well, if he's fit, I've got no idea. He seemed to fall out a bit of favour with the old manager anyway. When he was fit, he was dropped to the bench. So look, we can do magical things with a lot of players, but we got our business right with signing Konate, and you definitely seen it at Inter Milan if you needed any proof in the pudding. But as a centre back coming into Anfield, I don't think any centre back looks forward to a trip to Merseyside. Well, the red colour. So I'd say definitely not. I do hope he plays though. I'd like to give him a clap. I think although you can see he's not great. He come in, he did his services. Although it was mainly down to Nat and Reece in the end, we got the result we wanted last season in top four. So I hope he plays. I think he'll be hoping he's not playing though.
Yeah. If he has, he could end up marking Van Dijk from a corner. That'll be the closest he'll get to playing with him. Hyla says the game against Norwich is perfect for trying out different options. Simeks on left back and such. We know that Klopp, unless it's a FA Cup third round or a Carabao Cup first round, isn't too open to wide scale changes unless he has to. But this does kind of feel like that kind of game where, you know, Simeks does need some minutes, bless him. He hasn't put a foot wrong, really. Surely he deserves to have a go in this game.
It sounds wrong, doesn't it? He deserves to have it. Give him a go. just give him a run out. But this is the thing. If Robertson got injured and Simeks was coming in, I'd be gutted for Robbo, but I wouldn't be worried at this moment in time because of how well he's played this season. And you can just see on all the training videos and everything going on, he loves being here. Yeah. And he's performing well. And I'd love to see him get a run of games just to see how much his confidence can take him forward as well. Because he's never really had it. He had a little bit, but Robbo bounced back, as he always does, and came back incredibly quickly. I think Costas deserves a few games in the Premier League and stuff like that. Save Robbo for a few of the cup finals and knockouts and pressure situations, and just give him that opportunity to flourish a little bit, because he's a cracking left back. You know, otherwise we're going to lose him in the summer. Someone's going to put up a decent amount of money from him. And Joe Gomez is another one. I should just put it in chat. Give the guy some minutes. Quality.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Jamie. I mean, it's a good point. And with the likes of Simeks, Joe Gomez, even a Kelleher, these are excellent backup options. But we're very close to that point already where if you don't give them enough games, they all know that they're quality at what they do. They could easily look for pastures new. So between now and the end of the season, it must be important to give Gomez some minutes, surely.
Yeah.
Or do you think he's worth keeping around? It's up to you.
Yeah, the age on his side, I'd love to keep Gomez, especially with the age. Look, centre backs can play for years, but you've always got to have a long term plan, and I think Gomez and Konate really is the long term plan, considering the age of Van Dijk and Matip in maybe 5-6 years. Look, when he's come into the side this season, I know we've seen him very little, but I thought against Leicester at home, he was really poor. But you're going to be, when you've got a lack of minutes like Joe Gomez is getting, it's very hard to just get straight up to game speed and play to your top ability. So I'd love to see him try out. I think Norwich is the perfect game. It's tailor-made for him at the current stage instead of Leeds, because without underestimating underestimating Norwich tomorrow. I think Leeds will be a bit more on the front foot. I think the defenders will have to be called a bit more into action than against Norwich. Then you see how Bielsa plays. He's very free-flowing attacking football. So we'll be a little bit more under the cosh if we are in the Leeds game. So I think Norwich is the perfect game for him. He needs to get minutes for his career. I don't know whether the rumours are true about Aston Villa wanting him and Gerrard. If it's a loan and Klopp's happy with the centre-back choices, I wouldn't be too against him, but I'd love to keep Gomez for the future. We've seen out before he broke his leg in that horrific challenge. We know how good he is. He's absolute. Him and Van Dijk was unbelievable that season where we go on to win the Champions League. And we massively important to the Premier League winning side as well. So I'd love to see Joe Gomez back to his form, and I think Norwich is the good game for him. I think it's a great shout.
Well, I'll stay on Joe Gomez because he has come up in a few streams now, and there does seem to be a quite large split in our fan base, if we can call it that. But I feel like in the wider Liverpool community in general. James, what's your thoughts on Joe Gomez? Because a lot of people are quite negative about him now. But he was a massive part of that title winning season.
That's what it is, isn't it? He's out of sight, therefore he's shit. And that's not the case. You know, everyone thinks, oh, well, and he'll come back and he might play a game and he'll make a mistake and I'm going to say he's terrible. But we're talking about, you know, one of the lowest goals conceded in the Premier League, and he played all the Premier League and Matty played all the Champions League. We're talking about probably one of the fastest centre-backs in the Premier League before his injury. I don't know what his pace is now, not seen it. For the team that played the highest line in the Premier League. So there's logic there, isn't there? You can also play right back and you're pushing Trent on into like an inverted wing back type player. So there's a lot of logic for a long-term solution for Joe Gomez. I think it all just comes down to how well has he recovered from his injury and is he getting back to his levels? And can he get back to his levels in this Liverpool team? And I think that's what it comes down to. But we love to hate on a player. You know, Henderson's getting it this season. You know, I think when you were doing the watch-along and I was in chat, you know, I use Lucas as an example. Everyone loves to hate Lucas, but the second he leaves, he becomes Napoli's player of the year because of Liverpool fans 5 years in a row. And he's the third highest successful tackler in the Premier League history. Now, I'm not saying anyone's world class or anything like that, but we've got to appreciate what we've got. And I don't think we do a lot of the time. We just go, you're not playing, you're shit.
There's a few comments already about this. Ayu says he has looked really shaky in the cup games he started, to be honest. Well, I mean, that can't be much of a surprise. He has been out for such a long time. Exactly. It's pressure, it's match fitness, which is obviously different to just being fit enough to play.
I'm not saying we shouldn't have sold Lucas, by the way, Nathman. I'm completely on board. We were getting rid of him at the right time, but I'm just saying he was hated for his entire, for 99% of his time here, and he got completely rebuilt. That was the example I was giving.
Yeah, and same with Henderson. Like, we all know that he hasn't been at his best for large parts of this season. I think where some of us draw the line is that just because someone's had a couple of mistakes here and there, or for the last few weeks hasn't played well, doesn't automatically mean they're the shittest player to ever wear the shirt. Doesn't mean they don't deserve to play Premier League football. Doesn't mean they deserve to be chastised and kicked out of the club and locked out of Kirkby training ground. There's a bit of, it's not so black and white. There's a little bit of give and constructive criticism, which I don't think Nathman is particularly keen to give Gomez. He seems very anti-Gomez. We'll see what his comeback to that is. Hyla says Gomez is fast, one of Liverpool's fastest players, and in the past he would be preferred in front of Matip because of that. But after Liverpool bought Konate with his pace, Gomez seems redundant. So in terms of this season, Jamie, I've with no evidence or proof, I've always felt like this season's a bit of a time for just getting back out on the training ground and kind of just rebuilding himself, for Gomez at least. And Konate is kind of the shiny new thing, so everyone's going to love him no matter what. Again, do we see a long-term future for Gomez? I agree with you. I think maybe a loan move could be worthwhile, but that would require keeping Nat Phillips about, which I don't see happening. And I guess more importantly, do you think Joe Gomez would want to be a part of a more long-term solution, or would he want game time now, especially with the Winter World Cup coming up soon?
Yeah, it's tough for him. That World Cup is a massive point. He'll never get picked if he's not being played. He doesn't have a chance to prove himself. So I think that could come into context in his mind, in the decision he makes. Don't get me wrong. If he was guaranteed minutes, Joe Gomez would obviously stay. But he's been left out in this. He was left out in the squad a couple of games back without a reported injury, I believe. So that speaks volumes as well. He is fourth choice in the pecking order. And in a season that we didn't expect it, especially after last season, so far, not to jinx anything, our injury record in the centre-backs has been absolutely fantastic. He's actually been the only one who's been reported to be injured. But as a club, you don't expect that. You expect Matip to have been injured already. I think Matip's legs have done a remarkable job for his record in it. Konate had a few reported injuries at Leipzig. So, and after last season with Van Dijk, before the season going into it, we never knew what Van Dijk was coming. We never knew if he'd be injury prone, what levels he'd reach. But all these three centre backs above him have really been at the top of the game. Van Dijk's definitely back now. We've seen it at Milan. I think Konate has been. Everyone will love him because, like you said, are you labelled correctly? He is a shiny new thing. But he's backed it up. He's been absolutely immense. I've not seen him put a foot wrong. I think at the start he looked a little bit nervy, but he's going to get used to the high line, so you've got to expect that. But Wednesday night just speaks volumes of how good of a player he is. And Matip's had an unbelievable season too. So he's got in his agent's mind, he'll weigh up his minutes. I would, if we had the capability of doing it, I think the best move for his career is go to Stevie G at Villa. There's a massive project there. The defence is awful. I think Tyrone Mings is a horrible centre back.
Yeah, he could replace him easily. Yeah,
but like you said, then we'd only have 3 labelled centre back because I think Nat Phillips goes in the summer. So it's a very, very tough decision. I don't know what he'll do. I hope he stays and I hope he can regain the form that we know he can. It's if he trusts the process of him starting in a couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because some people almost insist that we sell him, which I find bizarre because the effort we'd have to go through to then find another backup for him. Because as much as I'm rooting for Sepp van den Berg to come back and challenge for a spot somewhere in the team, we just look so much better and have that much more depth when we've got 4 world-class centre-backs on the go. So I feel like we would need to replace Gomez if he did leave. And that's just a lot of effort to go through for a position that we've already got a lot of decent strength in. And I feel like the midfield's probably somewhere where we need different kinds of players instead. But moving on from that, and we're coming towards the end now, I won't hold you for too much longer. James, I won't ask you to do a full starting 11, but are there 3 or 4 players in particular you're hoping might start tomorrow? Again, I feel like we're almost disrespecting Norwich a little bit here, and I don't want it to come across like it is an FA Cup third round tie, but you've got to use your squads at points.
Yeah. I would like to see, dear Mr. Klopp, please can you play Diaz?
Yeah.
Because I genuinely think the pace he put in our attack made us more exciting than Mane playing, but that might just be Mane still getting back up to speed. I would like to see Harvey Elliott get a run at a team that are being more defensive, so I would like to see him played again. And I would like to see Costas just have a game with Diaz as well and just see how they link together, because the Robertson-Diaz links looked really exciting from the off. I'd like to see Costas get a chance to go with him as well and just see how that one bounces off.
And Jamie, what midfield three would you prefer to see? Because I think the defense, apart from Simeks, almost picks itself. We know we've got a brilliant front five, essentially, who we can interchange, but the midfield is the most interesting area, I feel like. And who would you like to see lining up against Norwich?
Oh, I'm absolutely spoilt for choice here for one of the first times this season. I think that the two that pick themselves, and we can't totally underestimate Norwich. We still have to play the fundamentals, and for me, that's Thiago and Fab. So I put them in there straight away, in my opinion. And then it's a one in three. It's a one in plenty between Ox, Keita, Harvey, Henderson, Curtis Jones,
Milner.
But I personally tomorrow I'd like to see Naby Keita play. I thought he did a great job against Inter Milan when he come on. I think he's finally put in a string of a few weeks together, being fit, which is good to see. But I'm so tempted to say Harvey because regain his confidence, make sure he knows he's still capable of doing it. I don't think it really gets tougher than San Siro away. It's a completely different test physically for him.
Is the cup final next weekend?
Sorry?
Yes,
It's
Sunday, next Sunday.
Next weekend. Oh, I might leave Thiago out, just cotton wool him.
Possibly.
Well, Ayush said I'd rest either one of, but you could rest all three. Hendo, Keita, and Ox. Do you think we'll take that three as an example? Do we think that's got enough in it to beat a Norwich side?
I think we need Fabinho. I wouldn't pick that three. I think Fabinho is the most important player. He come off after 60 minutes anyway, which I was absolutely shocked by. But in hindsight, it was proving the right decision. Klopp knows best. So I think Fabinho. That I don't know if that's game management. If he was thinking Norwich, I highly doubt it. It was more tactical, but he had a 30-minute rest, which is good for Fabinho. So definitely Fabinho. I definitely get James's point against with cup final being Sunday. We've already seen that Jota's injured. Possibly it's time to have an eye on that and rest some players. I think Thiago is very lucky. He got out of Inter Milan with that shoulder arm.
Oh my god! Yeah, that was dreadful.
That was horrendous.
I was sure something would come up about that after the game, but he's somehow avoided an injury.
And I think if Thiago comes out, that positions Henderson's for the experience. And then I think we're in the same conundrum of Harvey, Keita, Ox, Curtis, Milner. So I do get it. I definitely pick Fabinho to be in there, though.
It's worth remembering that we have also got Leeds midweek. That was the Boxing Day game. So does that alter either of your choices?
I might play Thiago in that one and then rest him for the Leeds one.
Yeah, I think Leeds is more likely to be a bit of a more physical game.
Yeah,
But we'll talk about that game closer to the time. Predictions for tomorrow, Jamie. Let's get you first.
Oh, I hate doing predictions, but I'm gonna. I think we're all gonna be confident, and I'm gonna say 3-0 with Chester. I think we're too much for Norwich. They're doing a great job at the minute on getting points to the board. They look like they'd get a worse record than Derby with their 11 points, but they've proven that they're still in a little bit of a race. I still back them to finish bottom of the league, but yeah, I'm gonna say 3-0. I'd love to see Diaz get his first goal, cop end. I'd love to see Salah or Mane get a goal as well, get Salah's confidence back. Definitely, I think Inter would have helped him a lot because I think he wasn't quite himself up until the goal. But I'm going to say 3-0.
And James, what about you?
I'd agree with Jamie's score, but I think it needs to be. I think we're getting into the stage. If we're chasing City properly, we need to be putting 5 past these. Yeah. We really need to be not doing the Liverpool thing of getting 3-0 up and then just passing it around and chilling out. We need to be absolutely annihilating people because we need that goal difference. Because if for whatever reason we can make back 6 points, then we're playing goal difference, and they've just taken the lead on us on goal difference. So we really need to start putting people to the sword if we can. I think 3-0, but I would like it to be 5 or 1-0 if one of Matip's crazy runs finally ended up in him banging one in the top corner. If that's the only goal of the game, I'm happy. But we need to start getting some of that goal difference back.
Yeah, I think we've earned the right to have confidence going into a fixture like this, and we should have those high expectations for our players. Irish goes for a 4-0 Liverpool win with a Salah brace and Luis Diaz to open his account, which he has looked like doing in the couple of appearances he's made. Personally, I think it's more likely we'll get a tight 1-0 win, but hey, that's the pessimist in me coming out. I think we'll call it a day there. We've literally just come up to the hour, and it's been a good chat. I like this more general, laid back chatter. Let us know in the comments, in the live chat, and in the comments after if you've enjoyed this format. If you think that's something we should keep on doing, we're very open to ideas. And also, if you are new, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and like this video. We will have a watch along for the Norwich game tomorrow. That'll be with Jack and Tar live from about 2:30, I'd imagine. So make sure you're here for that, whether you're watching the game or not. I don't believe it's on television in England, so that could be another big one for us. Could be right up there with the Shrewsbury watch along, which would be sensational. And then, of course, Leeds midweek and the Carabao Cup final. All of those and all the build-up and all the reaction will be here on the LFC Transfer Room. So if you are new, make sure you stick around. I've been Louis. I've been joined by Jamie, James, and Bob previously for another episode of the LFC Transfer Room. Thank you very much to everybody for watching, and we will see you in the next video.